No mai, haere mai ki Aotearoa Rugby Pod. Welcome to the Aotearoa Rugby Pod, brought to you by Ashley and Martin Medical Hair Centres. It's been a big weekend for Southern Hemisphere rugby. Even if the trophy was lifted in London, the Springboks have taken out the best Rugby Championship ever, arguably, by points differential. We break down what it all means 2 years out from the World Cup. Why are the Boks ahead of the pack, and where must everyone else catch up? We saw Tupaea and Fainga'anuku make big plays. What does that mean for the ever-changing All Blacks backline? There's also chat about the Rugby Championship moving to the Southern Hemisphere summer, so it can go at the same time as the Six Nations and fix the global calendar concept. We break that down on what it could mean, and we head into the crunch time in the NPC with quarterfinals. You know I'm wanting to talk counties taking down Tasman and looking sharp, heading into the semi against Canterbury, who are very much the title favourites after securing top spot. Plus, we have another Rugby Ready giveaway for a month of free training with All Blacks guru Nick Gill's training team. And as ever, we have heaps of your emails and comments, as well as all the in-depth analysis you've come to expect from James Parsons and Bryn Hall, who both picked Tasman. And I'm so glad that went wrong for you.
To my defence, I commentated with Nigel Yelden and I said, I think counties will win tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I changed over the weekend.
Yes.
Just had a feeling. I had a feeling they're running hot.
Yeah.
And beware Canterbury.
Bryn Hall was beaming in live to us, of course. The test match on the weekend, the All Blacks versus the Wallabies. What did you take out of that game and where it leaves the All Blacks after the Rugby Championship?
Yeah, look, I think consistency. I think it's great to go 2 from 2. I think it's probably one thing that we haven't been able to get with the All Blacks. And look, there's obviously a few things that they want to work on. You look around the discipline, probably more so the breakdown area. I think of the 14 penalties that they did have, 10 was in that ruck. So technically, the ref was looking, I guess, more so a lot of the breakdown and the adjustments with it probably would be a little bit better. But look, I think when I turned on the tally and saw that it was raining at Perth, I was like, well, a bonus point is going to be pretty hard. But we were able to get that in 80th minute with George Bauer scoring his first try, and not only international footy, but footy in general and professional level. So look, I think that it is a pass mark, but the discipline area is probably, not the discipline, the penalties is probably a big point of us not being able to have momentum. But look, I think also Tupaea had an outstanding test match. I know we've touched on Billy Proctor throughout the whole year, but look, I think Tupaea, not only with his injection off the bench, but the performance that he put on the weekend and more so, I think he was best on park. But the 2 tries that he did score, you look at the transition one very early on, getting over that advantage line, which we're wanting from our midfielders, and Quinn did that really nicely. And then obviously the quick tap and being able to show his raw power as well. So yeah, a couple of good performances from Quinn, and I think more so just around getting that bonus point and being able to, I guess, get a second win and being able to have a 2-0 series win against the Australians was good for me.
I think the thing that excited me the most from an attacking standpoint is, if we look back to I don't know if you can remember the try Cody Taylor scored against British and Irish Lions at Eden Park off an Aaron Smith quick tap. You can see that the players are now bouncing and getting ready and almost looking for, like Will Jordan did the quick tap and obviously Quinn Tupaea scored. And then even, I think Leroy Cutter's brought a nice a sort of adjustment in and around the 22 with his pick and go game. And why I say that is because the South Africans are so good at building phases in the 22 and eventually scoring through mass, but it's the tempo. They don't wait for the halfback or wait to set up anything. It's just like, it could be Quagga Smith, it could be Sia Khaleesi, it could be anyone picking and going. And that unrelenting nature turns focus, turns attention into that breakdown, and then allows them to expose on the outside. And I suppose that's the most pleasing thing, is how effective and how efficient the All Blacks have been in the 22 and taking the opportunities when presented to them.
Let's touch on Quinn then. When you look at the way that he plays, the direct nature of his play, the angles that he runs, is his play actually better suited to the game plan that we're seeing at the moment, where I suppose it hasn't really allowed Billy Proctor or Rico Ioane space to do what they like to do on the outside, but Quinn is a more direct player by nature.
Yeah, and I mean, he's so efficient at getting through the collision. Like rugby is about, you win the collision, you're going to win the game of footy. And that probably is what sets South Africa apart at the moment, because across the field, they can always dominate that collision. And it's just something, you saw it off the bench, and now Quinn's done it, starting. It's, he's going to be hard to leave out. And I think you're right. Like, in terms of how they want to play and how they want to manipulate defence, he's going to have to be watched, which means teams will adjust. He's not going to always have it his way because they'll have to adjust to him, but what he's doing is forcing them to have to make that adjustments, which may open up opportunities elsewhere to be exposed.
We touched on this earlier in the Brynner, but we're not necessarily seeing the All Black centres distribute in a classical centre fashion. This isn't Bruce Robertson, this isn't Conrad Smith. They're working a different system. So what are the expectations of a player like Quinn, do you think, in the current system, and why does he fit so well?
Well, I think it's the ability to be able to get over the advantage line. Like, if you look at probably a lot of teams, more so the South Africans, when you do get over that advantage line, it's able to open up, for a guy like Cam Roygaard, or opens up our edge attack, or being able to play off our pods, because that good direct ball has been able to get us on the front foot. So I don't think a lot needs to change with Quinn. And what I really did enjoy sometimes is they actually switched Jordie and Quinn. So being able to get Quinn at that number 12 role, putting Jordie out to 13. If Jordie doesn't have to be in that ruck, then that third phase, he might end up being a distributor, being able to get the kind of examples that you're wanting, Ross, with that distribution skill. So they can play in and around, being able to use Quinn's physical, dominance, getting over the advantage line, and then being able to maybe open up Jordie Barrett, who has that skill set of being able to have a run pass kick. So I really enjoyed Quinn and being able to see how direct he was. Yes, he did score tries, but his ability to be able to get over the advantage line, I think, is something that we probably haven't seen from our centres in the early part of this season.
Well, I think it's because of the style of player, though, as well. Like, defenders fear Rico's speed, so they tighten up and, potentially gets less. But I think that's what I'm saying. Like, defences will change because he's a running threat first, Quinn. Like, he will take it, and then that's hopefully going to open up the ability to get to the edge. But defenders have almost drifted off him and he's gone and taken that space. It's not all brutality. Even that try, he went between bodies, between defenders and scored. The beauty will be, hopefully, that we see on this Grand Slam tour, that maybe they tighten around him and giving that ability to distribute. I suppose his ability to play 12 also is helping get Jordie into the backfield for the contestable kick game. Like, you saw that contestable kick between Jordie and Suali'i. Man, that was outstanding. And probably someone of his size is only going to be able to do that, match Suali'i in the air. So I'm not saying we've solved the issues, but that's another area that really excited me, because it takes away, I suppose, teams' confidence of that threat with being able to get Jordie in that backfield.
I do like the way that the coaches are making those adjustments to fit particular skill sets. Like, here's a problem. Who's our guy who can fix that problem? Does it really matter what jersey's on? Let's put him in the place to fix the problem, Brett.
The adjustments is probably, the thing we talked around when we talked around with the All Blacks not being able to win the aerial game. They adjusted in Jordie Barrett to be able to be at the back with a Will Jordan, two guys that are pretty used to that fullback role and being able to win the ball. Great adjustment with the All Blacks to try and win the aerial battle. And I guess you look at Quinn, his ability to be able to get over the gain line has been a big moving point for us to be able to try. And I guess if we do want to move forward with this Northern Hemisphere tour, which we're going to see with the Grand Slam teams, that we are going to play the physicality and around getting over the advantage line, and Quinn being able to do that opens up the likes of a Jordie Barrett. And don't forget as well that we probably do have, probably three pivots, I think. You've got your Damien McKenzie, that we probably have shown in this series that if they are from the sideline, they're going to go off 10, being able to get into the middle of the field and attack in the middle. You've also got a Jordie Barrett who can go behind it, and a Will Jordan floats in and around that distribution skill as well. So there's enough distribution between the three of them in that back line, I think, with Quinn. I think for him, his ability to be over the gain line and the subtle skills that he has shown, he's improved it throughout Super Rugby. The little deft kicks in behind, his distribution will get better, but I just really liked what I saw, not only on the bench when he's on the wing, but his skill set of being able to get over the advantage line, I think is going to be really beneficial for us when we do go up north in a few weeks' time.
As you can imagine, we've had a few emails come through talking about this All Blacks midfield. One from Samson Okero, who suggested that Tupaea at 12 and Jordie at 13 could be a really strong combination. It seems that you could.
They're sort of doing
They're sort of doing that already, but it made me wonder, why haven't we seen Jordie at 13 before? He's played everywhere else in the All Black backline, past halfback, I suppose, is the only one he hasn't.
Yeah, I'm not saying he can't do it, but it is normally probably the most challenging position on the field. And normally you'll see sides want that consistency, but it's becoming less and less so. Like if you look at Moody in at centre, they sort of chop and change with Jesse Creel. So it's definitely a position that I think is probably the trend of rugby has been a lot more rotational than probably what, the centres you just named before, a Conrad Smith, they're sort of fixed and they do their role and really sort of show the strengths of the people inside and outside. And then defensively, they're a key cog at shutting things down. But there's no reason why he hasn't played there. I suppose his skill set has probably just meant he dictated that 12 position sort of coming up through the age grade, and then fullback is just, he's got that Israel Folau-like body and height that sort of suits that backfield.
We also had some questions that came through about Lester Fainga'anuku and I suppose the way that he went on the wing. Buntu and Tebi suggested that maybe you could have Tupaea at 12 and Fainga'anuku at the wing and shift Barrett to fullback because we're seeing him at the back so much. What do you think about that, Brynner?
For me personally, that's probably not the look that I would go for. I think you just need to have the number 12 position. I think you need to have a triple threat game. I think you've got to have the ability to be able to have the run, pass, kick, and your 12 is more so your second pivot and more so another first five that's on the field. So not to say that that combination couldn't do it, but my preference is that you need someone like a Jordie who is at 12, whether he's at 13, that has that skill set. So, but if you do want the ability to be able to get over the advantage line, and then, you know, it probably falls more on your kind of Damien McKenzie and Will Jordan. Those guys being the game managers along with Cam Roygaard. Those boys will get you over the advantage line. And defensively, they will bring a lot of pressure as well. So, depending if they want to change their style to get over the advantage line, then I could understand that combination. But for me, your 12's got to have your all-round ability in terms of what was required game management-wise.
Fainga'anuku, though, they probably need to give him some time in the midfield, maybe on the Grand Slam tour, because, geez, the size of the body and the footwork combined is quite an asset.
Yeah, but, you know, like sort of what Bryn's saying, that ability in that midfield to do all things, like you don't want to sort of just put him in there, because you can manufacture him in there. You know, like it is quite versatile. Like, I think you can manufacture him in the systems. We're in 11, and look, I thought he did a great job on the left wing, and we've all probably said the last few years that there's not a real like-for-like style player like a Caleb Clark when he's not available. So now having him available and you know, winning those collisions and I suppose again a player that draws so much attention of defenders, you know, it just created a little bit more space for others.
He's always busy. He always likes to, you know, get in and around the ball, goes to work on both sides of the wing. He'll go from one side of the field to the other, and his confrontation, which I think is the biggest asset that he does have, his ability to be able to get over the advantage line, whether it's through a pick and go or one-on-one, you know, those little things that can help out an attack is really good when you have a person that has the ability to be able to do that. So we probably didn't get to see a lot of him aerially, which I think, you know, Caleb Clark is really good at, but, you know, spending time with him the aerial game is an advantage and something that he does really well as well. So depending on if they want to continue with Caleb Clark when he does get back or Lester gets another opportunity, I feel like those two will end up being on the India tour going between the two for that aerial game, which is going to happen in the Northern Hemisphere. But yeah, a great start considering he's been away for 18 months. Looked busy, and you'd have to think the more time that he does get, the better he is going to be. Probably what we saw at the Crusaders and his consistency in having second, third and fourth efforts.
When he played at 13 for the Crusaders, Bryn, he was actually extremely good in terms of getting that ball to the edge. You know, like you'd probably sort of, you look at the way he plays his wing, but he does have, I suppose, the skill set and the deft touch to operate in that 13 role.
And he did it at Toulon as well. Like he had, you know, he's been playing in a pretty high league in terms of what's required as a 13. The more experience he's been able to probably see how it's played at a different pace, at a different play. And I think, you know, just coming back, you are right, Jip. His distribution skills, he can do that. He's also got little deft little kicks that he's able to do as well. So yeah, if given the opportunity, I think he could definitely do a job for it. But I think for me personally, I'd like to see him on the wing. His skill set, I think, is set up for the wing, and I think with the way that Quinn's there, Billy Proctor's been time there. We haven't even talked about Ruka Ioane if he might get an opportunity. So, you know, that's three centres, that could probably be vying in the Northern Hemisphere tour, keeping Lester on the wing, maybe covering as a 22 at a pinch on the bench if that's the case.
From the Wellington game to the defence showing, like there's been a massive amount of work obviously going after that game, because defensively they were rock solid. Like, we basically had no ball or territory in that first 20, 30 minutes, you know. I think it was 369 metres to 79 in terms of attacking run metres. And not once did it look panicked. You know, even when I suppose Australia got to the edge and made some good metres, you could see that they were all working together, using the sideline as their friend, tackled it over 90%. And yes, put the penalties away, like a lot of those penalties for not rolling away out of the breakdown and guys going for the jackal penalty, he was just very fixated on that, and we probably didn't adjust as quickly as we would have liked. But man, in terms of the system standing up, even when broken down, I was really impressed.
What about on the other side of the ball? Because it seems when New Zealand's got the ball in hand, they really struggle to stop the opposition from getting on top of that ball and forcing penalties or getting the turnover. Yeah,
look, I think a lot of those turnovers come when you've broken the defence. Like you see it so often as you get broken and then you lose that connection with your cleaners, and guys like McRide and that just live for those moments. Like sometimes they almost orchestrate it to allow that tip line to be seen and that tip to go through, and then it just comes back to a lot of the other times is when we lose the collision. So the carry is so critical to that breakdown area and not being able to jackal. So, you always want to sort of think of that mindset of landing on top of the defender, so that basically what happened to us is you can't roll out of there quickly, which means if someone goes for it, you're going to get the penalty yourself. So I think the carry is probably the biggest reason why when that doesn't go right, that's what will lead to that turnover. But I don't think it's an All Blacks only. Like, it's an area that is just challenged. Like, you just had to watch South Africa versus Argentina to see that there were turnovers both ways, and the counter rucks and I suppose targeting those wide breakdowns. And we were just as effective, I suppose, against Australia as well. So I think it's something that everyone knows, that if you can get some dominance in and around the breakdown and win the ref over, you're a long way to go to win Test match footy.
You look at the South Africans, you look at probably the Rugby Championship are the best in terms of being able to get over the advantage on and playing on top of teams. So you look on the weekend, like 79% gain line was for the Australians and 55% was for the Kiwis. But then I think also the biggest factor around that was that 70% of Australia's ball was 3 seconds, whereas we're at 64, which, isn't too much, but, you're talking around consistency and being able to play on top of teams and the decision-making of not being set, which in terms of if you do have a ref that's very technical, you look on the weekend, 10 of our penalties were at the ruck time. So our adjustments to be able to get the physicality and maybe also the breakdown decision-making wasn't there for us. They were able to accumulate some points early on with Taylor Edmund. So, yeah, I think it just kind of comes down to the collision area and being really squeaky clean and being really smart in and around the breakdown, because I think also the Australians, they had 7 breakdown turnovers as well on their side defensively. So that breakdown area for us to get our mojo, being able to score points and being able to, I guess, have a sustained amount of momentum. We probably just didn't get it. We got it in spurts, which has probably been a common trend, I think, for this All Blacks team in our Rugby Championship, that we've played well in spurts. We've been efficient in the 22 when we've been there, but we probably just haven't done it for a long amount of times during the Rugby Championship.
Chip, talking about breakdown penalties, Tom Hooper being carded, what did you make of that call, and why was it a yellow card when others kind of felt that maybe it was a bit soft as far as the yellow was concerned?
I know Marshy sort of was like, there's just no way that's a yellow card, but if you actually look at the croc roll, because I think it's the way it's termed croc roll, everyone has this vision that it's about sort of wrenching a body out of the ruck, but it's all about protecting the lower limbs. And so it's if you pull or transition any weight towards those lower limbs, it doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't have to be a croc roll. It's just termed a croc roll. That's what they're looking for. And that clearly, it was a lower limb, full body weight, and you can see in Jordie's reaction, because players were snapping their legs. That's how it came about, and it was out of the English Premiership. The example's pretty gruesome. Literally snapped someone's leg, and it's just, that transition of weight into a vulnerable position, like your knee's going to cave in when you're trying to get that turnover, and I don't think he did it maliciously, but it was clearly, I would say, a yellow card. I think Northern Hemisphere refs, because it was such a thing, you will go straight to the bin, whereas probably some, when we're down here with Super Rugby, and not get let go, but aren't like over-analysed and move forward, if you know what I mean. So I just think when we get into that Test match, even there, I think at one stage the ref said, no, this is World Rugby, not Super Rugby. Because of the rules. So it's just... it's just be mindful as a viewer, like that's the correct ruling.
Yes.
But sometimes, because we like to speed things up and have trials of not having the TMO come in, things get missed.
One of the other things that we saw was obviously the falcon from Jordie Barrett. We had an email through from Chris Minto, who was wondering how long it will take for World Rugby to get rid of the falcon because it is such an anomaly.
Yeah.
I kind of thought that he almost did it on purpose.
Nah, you could see his hands were going for it, then it hit the...
I think he saw the option and went...
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, but I agree. I think it's almost like Carlos Spencer's knee kick. That was allowed and then, sort of said it couldn't be. And even, what was it in Super Rugby a few years ago? I think it was Aaron Cruden, tapped the ball over and then
he caught it himself, yeah.
Caught it. So it'll be something like that. Like if it starts happening every week, it's... Well, what did Tupaea say? He hongied the ball. And he said, look, I saw it. I saw that. So he knew that it was going to be a try. And that's, it was very clear and obvious. You knew it sort of came off his face. But yeah, I think it'll be something that gets removed if it becomes a more common thing. Even speaking on the grubber through, Bryn, did you notice that the All Blacks were putting grubbers through a lot? Like they're definitely obviously seen something against Australia, or it's a kicking option that they're looking at bringing in as a more go-to sort of attacking weapon.
And when that space is there, it's pretty much dependent on where their nine is, right? Like if the nine's on the edge or they're slipping and they feel like they're slipping in a lot because they're losing their collision, they need to be able to help the hard defense. So yeah, it's a massive part of the field. I think you have seen that, long kicks down the middle of the field in terms of territory to get the bounce and then be able to get the teams to kick out from there. But yeah, it's definitely a weapon if you want to identify where the nine is, because that's probably the biggest cue and the biggest trend that you do see if they're in the line. And the communication on the run with the pivots, or I guess more so your Will Jordan or your wingers, looking for that space and identifying where those or more so the nine is, and seeing that space. Even
if someone goes down on it and connects, that just pile through counter ruck, it's just seemed very effective. It's just not something that I suppose I've seen a lot in terms of kick strategy, but I don't know if they did it purposely or it's something that they just saw against Australia, but I liked it.
Maybe let's segue now to talking about the Springboks Argentina game, because there was plenty there to talk about, especially this Boks scrum, which again, the penalties they're able to get, what are the stats here? The Boks have won 12 penalties at scrum time. The next best in the championship is New Zealand at 5.
Yeah, and I think that I actually don't, that's a good point, because everyone thinks that we've gone backwards in our own set piece, but I don't think we have. But to talk to the Boks specifically, I'm starting to think it's a mass thing. Like, they just seem absolutely, technically, the Argentinian scrum wasn't like they were absorbing it, but man, it was just there's definitely oxen chair. If you listen to every prop in World Rugby, they constantly reference him. And he came off the field and they actually, Argentina started coming back at scrum time and actually got some penalties of their own. So I do think a lot of it, like Malcolm Marx, absolute beast, the toy beast, but Oxenchair seems to be when they have that absolute dominance and destroying packs, he seems to be the consistent theme when they dominate. But I do think a lot of it's to do with the size of those players. I'm not saying Argentina are small, but it's that transition of weight. It's Peter Steph Dutoit. You can see he is curling the grass. He is ready to rock and roll. He's not going to a scrum looking up, going, who am I defending, or how do I get to the first ruck? She's all on.
He's a very large flanker.
Yeah, but they scrum for penalties. But it's just such a gift, man. When you have dominance at scrum time, there's no better feeling. You're just salivating to get to a scrum, to milk a penalty, because then you get a breather, you can kick to the corner, and they are just so efficient in the 22. They're the one side that across the Rugby Championship score a bulk of tries 5+ phases. And it's all to do with that pick and go, just anyone, next man up, pick and go. And again, sometimes I feel like it's a mass thing. They just dominate the collision and eventually they know they eventually are going to go over.
It's demoralising as well, Jip, I think as well. I was just watching even Argentina maybe got a counter attack, but a little knock on off that, then you're like, oh, okay, well, that was a really good play defensively. But you know what? That little knock on, that was, a 50-50, sometimes even a 60-40, not being that bad. And you just know you've got to go to a scrum. And even they tried quick hooks. Their solution was to try to get the ball in and out. But, if any time South Africa had a scrum, they were just getting penalties and just bullying. You even look at that Cobus Reinix try. It just pops out because of the dominance around the scrum and how easy it is for a 9 to score off that. And then I also agree around the 22. It's like, how do you stop them? Like when it's in the 22 and they're being able to have guys that are latching, they've got ball carriers. I wrote in my notes, how do you stop them? Because it's hard when it comes to efficiency. They get over the advantage line, 2 cleaners, good luck. So I guess the solution is that you don't want them to get into the entry of the 22. Try to have them in a low number, because when they are in there, I don't know. So Jippy, you might be better in that space to identify how you would stop it, because it seems like it's unstoppable at the moment.
Their ability to play so many different ways, I think, as well, because defenders have so much to think about. And if you look at, in terms of consistent themes with South Africa, they in the Rugby Championship, like they have the most balanced scoring. Like if you look at every other team, it's like, oh, that 20 minutes they're really good and that 20 minutes they struggle. Balanced scoring, balanced defence, balanced conceding across the 80 minutes. It's not like they are just so consistent, and then obviously when they get into the 22, they build a lot of phases and score, but 52% of their tries come from turnover.
Yeah.
So they can, and like that's when I look at those stats, all I think about is when Wayne Smith brought in that click attack Bryn, and it's like, you have 15 seconds. They have that and mass brutality in the 22. And I think that's why, because they know what they're doing, but defence doesn't, so you have to be wary for the crossfield kick to Colby. You can't just tighten up and go, okay, we're going to take you on muscle to muscle. Okay, sweet, well, we're just going to go to the edge and score. Do you see, like, they've just got that, I suppose, bag of tools that will expose you. And they've got game drivers, I think, that make really good decisions based on the pitches the defence is giving them.
And that's the difference. If they're not having an off night, that's the difference between them and everyone else in the Rugby Championship.
Yeah.
I've never really seen that, like in any team, that across 80 minutes, across a competition, to see such, I suppose, consistent themes in terms of points scored, points conceded.
Just don't underestimate as well, like when you have a scrum like that, it doesn't matter where you are in the game. If it's a close game and you can know that you're going to get a penalty and you're going to work teams from that, it's a great advantage to have. And then from that as well, that we haven't even touched on their kicking game. Like if they're able to get their execution of their box kick and their push game, they can go to that. So it's kind of just picking their poison. If they feel like they're not getting that scrum is obviously a really big weapon that they're able to use at any time. But they can attack, they can maul, they can go to the scrum, they can kick, they can counter-attack. So, that's pretty much 5 different ways that they're able to score points.
And man, you've got to credit their decision-making. Like, they didn't go to contestables. They knew that Argentina would like that. They want the bubble ball. They want the turnover, the disruption. They went to the cross-field flat kicks, or they went to the territory-based kicks. You didn't see a lot of contestables. Like, they are very methodical in their preparation and playing to their strengths, but also exposing or not providing opportunities to the strengths of the opposition.
Let's go from there, because the Boks' ability to get a scrum penalty is really big when you consider that Argentina score more tries than anyone else off scrum attack.
It is, and but sometimes when your first phase is off a number 8 because they want to do a quick pick, it takes away all that scrum attack that we probably saw in the first couple of test matches in this Rugby Championship of how good they were, the players they were getting to, the people that they were trying to fix. They were able to do that. So, but when you've got a scrum that's just going backwards from the get go, pretty much from the hit, from the engage, from the set, it takes away the ability of being able to get that wide pass from 9, get to the players that you want to, more so your number 12, and being able to get to the 10-12 area early. You probably can't do that when you've got your 8 picking to try and get the ball out as quick. And he probably doesn't have that pass length like you would as a 9 if you wanted to pass it to a 12, which we'll probably see traditionally with scrum strikes these days.
That takes us through to the Ashley Martin turning point for the week. Jipper, Argentina, they had them on the ropes and they let them off.
Yeah.
Don't do that against South Africa.
No, you don't. And I don't think Argentina can afford to miss that opportunity in the first half, because they score, that's when they're at their best. And they'd kick to the corner. Okay, just moments before, maybe it was a tougher kick. And they were building pressure. went back to a penalty. I think Malcolm Marks was done for incorrect entry. You just felt if they could get 7 there, and this is the reason why it's a turning point is I think if their scrum was okay, they would have gone to a scrum. Like you mentioned, 45% of their tries come from scrum, and they've got such strong strike plays off that scrum that they probably will score. It's one area that they will score within 1 to 2 phases. But they just didn't have that, and they went away from, I suppose, what was working for them and when they win. And the 3 points from there just got South Africa back in the game, and they got out to the big lead. And credit to Argentina, they did come back, but the damage was done, or the momentum or the pressure they could have put on the Boks to, give them a little bit of anxiety to maybe make a poor decision tactically, was there. It was right there for the taking. And I felt in that moment, I watched the game live, so I didn't know what was going to happen, but I felt at that moment, I was just like, that's just an opportunity missed.
You didn't sleep much Saturday night.
No. Well, it was right there, and it's kind of hard. Do you get hyped up like when you watch the All Blacks? Like, It's quite hard to just go to the scratcher, I just remained up.
I turned in at 2:30. I couldn't make the second half. I just couldn't make it. So when I woke up, I was disappointed to see that Argentina had fallen off again.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's the code head in me. I wanted to know what was going to happen.
I was watching it as a Kiwi fan, as an All Black fan. I think, if they would have scored a try and been able to go to the corner, it's just a little bit different of maybe putting, not demons, but putting a few anxiety and a bit of worry to the South Africans. But I just always felt that with that decision, it kept them in reach, and it didn't need to take them that much to find themselves back into the game. So the difference of maybe scoring 2 tries or being out to two scores or 3 scores, then it ends up being a bit of a question mark in their heads around can they bring it back. And I think they would have been able to, like I said, with all the things that they do really well. More so their scrum. Time would have told that they would have been able to build pressure through scrums, get penalties, get into the 22 area zone, and been able to, I think, eventually win the game in the end, but maybe possibly a little bit closer. But yeah, I think they missed a trick. Argentina usually, I know they like to build that scoreboard pressure. They do it traditionally, but I think to beat the South African teams where they are at the moment, you've got to go and attack them. You've got to go beat them and win it. I just feel they kind of let them off the hook, and then the South Africans felt like they were kind of off the hook. That's what I felt when watching it.
But the MO, it did go away from the MO because, yes, they do like to chip away at threes, but that's normally from 40 metres out. So if the penalty was 40 metres out and they took the 3, I'd be like, yeah, because they're not that good off the line out. There's no point kicking to the corner. Take the 3, beauty. But they're very, very strong when they set a set-piece scrum in the 22 at scoring, and it just showed the impact. And I just think the scrum was the reason why the South Africans won that test, because had they not been struggling so much, it just would have put so much pressure back on South Africa.
Yeah, that second half, the South Africans showed it again. There's no one can stick with them in the second half. I know the Aussies did it, and New Zealand did it to a degree, but probably were right on the back foot at Eden Park in the second half. Yeah,
they're when tiring bodies, they're very good. I just think tactically, their game drivers are just so good at reading defences. And we say it all the time on here, like, defence will give you the answer. The defence will give you the answer. You've got tools to, or things you can pull on or rely on, but none of it, and that's what I sort of say, not to bring it back to the All Blacks, but that's what I like about the quick taps or Leroy Carter coming in and scooping, because it's off the cuff. You're going, okay, the defence is doing this, we're doing that. Do you see what I mean? And I think South Africa and their game drivers are just, or actually maybe Bryn, I'm probably giving credit to the game drivers, but probably their edges, Colby and co, communicating things in, that's probably allowing them, I suppose, that X factor. And that's what really excited me from an All Blacks point of view, because you really saw that the other night.
It seems like everybody's in tandem. Like, I think when it comes to game drivers, and if they are playing well, the outsides are playing well, or vice versa. If the ball's getting out to the edge, it's because of distribution or being able to get a crossfield kick, or it just seems like I feel like with Tony Brown, I only spent a little bit of time with him, but the accountability that everybody has in their own role, especially in the back line, is really important. So if you do your own role, you're able to communicate on the run and being able to have those kind of communications and chat throughout the game. It gives you a better opportunity to pull trigger and be decisive and being able to get the execution right. So I just feel, not to bring back to the All Blacks, but I feel that's kind of where we're missing a little bit as well. Like, our execution under pressure. The balls that aren't just aren't in front, they're kind of out the back, or the catch and pass to put it away. we're just not kind of getting that continuity. We're getting it in spurts, and I hate to say it, but it feels like that Rugby Championship for me is we played in spurts. We did some really good things in spurts, but we just weren't consistent enough in the kind of the clinical nature of what the Springboks are doing. Even though it was 29-27, I just felt they did it very, very well in the Rugby Championship.
That's the interesting thing coming out of this Rugby Championship, isn't it? The first time that it's been decided by points differential since the tournament started in 2012. Probably the previous best was probably 2022, when all of the teams got at least 2 wins as well. But to me, even though it was so close, and even though teams are getting wins off each other, you couldn't help but feel there was this gap between New Zealand and the Springboks, even though Australia beat the Springboks. There just seemed to be a gap, even though the scoreboard doesn't necessarily show that on the table.
We've got to give credit to the All Blacks taking it to, I suppose, points differential. You know, like that. Like, Bryn, there is an element. Like, I hear what you're saying there, but man, bonus point on the line. They were pretty ruthless and efficient, and they got the try, and they got the job done. You know, like it really was one bad half.
Well, and a bad half from Argentina.
Yeah, after everything that we've spoken about. Yeah, and you can hear it the way Razor talks and the players talk. They're now looking for that consistency themselves, and I think they'll find it. Maybe I'm glass half full as always, but I don't know. Maybe I don't think the gap's that big between any of those sides and the rest. But I think we're going to learn. Like we're about to find out because we're playing the big dogs. In a really challenging tour.
Well, it's a year, Bryn, where they do get to challenge themselves against all of the major nations they get to play this year. So by the end of this year, there'll be a very, very good understanding about where the All Blacks sit.
I'll ask you then, if we get to we win the Grand Slam, like you'd have to say like that's a pretty good year for the opposition you've got to come up against.
Well, if you've tied with the Springboks on the table, you've got a win and a loss against the Springboks, and you've won a Grand Slam, then you're not coming out the end of the year and saying, where's Scott Robertson going to be next year? You're going to be saying, well, that wasn't too bad. You played against every major rugby nation this year and came out with 80% winning record or whatever it's likely to be at that point.
And using a good amount of players.
Yeah.
You know, like blooding a good sort of layer of depth. If they can be successful in the All Blacks 15, it sets a pretty nice picture.
Yeah, if they win a Grand Slam.
I know. But I'm just trying to I don't think. Yeah, I like our ruthless nature when the All Blacks lose. Like I love it. I love how our nation does that. Like that's our superpower. But like I don't think there's overwhelmingly like massive issues or massive gap between us and the Springboks. The one area that they probably have the most is that dominance. They are just consistently the most dominant physically. And that it's just so hard, you know, and we have to find a way to match that. I'm sitting here going, it's so hard, and I'm not really offering any solutions. But like we have to find a way to match that if we are to then reclaim number one in the world.
Like, what is a successful end of year tour? Can we afford to drop one? Is that a successful one? If we drop Ireland and Chicago and then we go 0, we go 3 from 3 from that, is it a successful tour?
In modern rugby, 75% is successful, I think, because these teams are all so close. 75% is successful. If they lose 2, that's a failure.
Okay.
If they win all 4, that's surprisingly good because it is so competitive.
I'd say that's
Wales.
outstanding.
Yeah.
That is, yeah.
This isn't 2005 where they're turning up and playing separate 15s week on week and nailing opposition by 30 points.
No,
this is
it'll be fine margins for 3 of them.
Yeah.
I just don't know where Wales are at. I haven't watched enough of them.
Well, I mean, they haven't been very, very good for a long time now.
No,
the Scots, on the other hand, we've seen a lot of firsts. I know we've seen the Scots be inconsistent, but New Zealand has been ticking off bad firsts for some time now.
Oh, and you know Finn Russell.
Yeah.
He will have it circled.
Yeah.
And that he is your Sasha. You know, he's someone that can do things others can't.
Yeah. If you look at the Scottish backline as well, I know we'll probably go a little bit more deep once we do get into that end of year tour. But geez, if you're all British and Irish Lions, you know, what's his name? Kill, number 15. Was it Blair Kinghorn? Sorry, Kinghorn. You got Jones, who had an outstanding British and Irish Lions tour. You got Tupaea, you got Russell, you got White, who obviously came in at the India tour. So, and they've got Van der Merwe. So, in terms of the talent and what their consistency of that group has been for a long time, I think we obviously don't want it to be a first that Scotland does beat us, but they've been there or thereabouts. We've always talked it in the Six Nations that in the big games they haven't been able to get the job done. But I think with that, the experience of playing the British and Irish Lions, coming in, they might be a little bit underdone considering like what we do in the June series. But look, I think the cohesion that group has had, I guess it'll be the best chance for them to try and beat us for sure.
We're getting so ahead of ourselves. But just to finish off on the Scots is their biggest weakness is their ability to have dominance up front. If you look at the Lions, very minimal selection of forwards.
Yeah.
And even the ones that were selected didn't play a lot in terms of the big tests. So if there's ever a game that you can take Finn Russell out of it, it's taking what we've learnt through this Rugby Championship and really looking to just absolutely dominate up front.
Right.
Up front Parsons, here he is.
Up front Parsons, and that's the key trend that we're taking out of all of this. What about looking across the teams? Which players stood out to you going, okay, this guy really made a name for himself?
Well, it's not made a name, but it made me realise how important he is to Australia, is Tom Wright.
Yeah.
The moment they lost him, like 30% of Australia's tries come from turnovers. A lot of the time it's from his instinct, his ability to kick 50-22s. So he has that kicking threat, which means defenders really struggle whether to come up or stay back. And his injury just changed, I think, the direction for Australia. And then it's the next thing to stick with Australia. And I know these aren't new players, but even Skelton's HIA, and Valentini coming off the bench, when those guys aren't starting, it's a big difference for Australia. And I think what I take out of it is they need to, try and find that player that resides in Australia that can be picked all the time and isn't playing French rugby to build their own consistency. Do you know what I mean? But Will Skeltons don't pop up everywhere. But they've shown enough, I suppose, physically when he hasn't been there to still find a way to win. But there's a heavy reliance on certain individuals, do you know what I mean, for that squad?
Could moving the Rugby Championship, like people are talking to the summer at the same time as the Six Nations, have an effect on those things? I think it would just be poor quality.
Yeah. I just think what lead in, like you do need some runs on the boards into test. That's my personal take.
Yeah.
And look, I like the idea of a global calendar, but you got to meet halfway, not just, it would change the dynamic of I can't get my head around it.
Yeah.
Personally, I just don't know how it would work. You'd be coming off cold. Yeah. Off a summer break. Because you'd be playing in February, wouldn't you?
You'd be playing in January, February,
yeah. I don't think that sets you up for success, personally, for test match footy.
Yeah, some pretty tough, hard grounds there.
Yeah, like they play through that period normally.
Yeah.
You almost feel like Super Rugby would have to be a summer sport, to go almost starting now. There's got to be a middle ground. That is so excessive. I love my footy, but I don't mind a good few weeks at summer not having to watch it.
It sounds like the Aussies and the South Africans, probably because of the fact that they select overseas players,
100%.
are quite keen for it.
Yeah.
Does that mean that New Zealand would have to just change the way that we approach it as far as the ability to select overseas players? Is this the thing that changes?
Well, good luck having a quality NPC that we've just witnessed. Do you know what I mean? It just would end it.
Yeah.
Why would you start if you make the All Blacks from anywhere, you take them more money.
It doesn't bode well, So it helps everybody else in the world, but it doesn't help out us. And so there's a lot of things that go with it that Jip has just probably alluded to and probably works with the Players Association. So
I don't think it would improve our ability at tests. I don't think it would prep us that well. And there's 130 odd years of legacy of that jersey. Anyway, God.
Sorry, Ross. I just wanted to pop onto two guys that I thought actually played really well during the Rugby Championship as well. I think for the All Blacks, Leroy Carter, I think he's one gem that's here. He has had an outstanding Rugby Championship and with the opportunities that he's been given. And I think also just touching on with Australia, I just think Lenny Ekatau has become such a big part of that Australian team. We know that he's been a good ball carrier, but I've just really enjoyed seeing his progression over the last 12 months through the British and Irish Lions series, this Rugby Championship, the subtle touches that he has, the distribution, the little kicks in behind, his ability to be able to get over the advantage line, whether it's close to the ruck or just in general off the edge. So Lenny Ikatel, I think, is kind of getting into that conversation now, being one of the better midfielders in the world with his performances during this Rugby Championship, and especially the British and Irish Lions as well.
To continue on that theme, Bryn, of players that I think Cortez Ratama, I know that like Cam Roygaard came back and dominated, but again, I thought he was great off the bench. And before he got that sternum injury, like he took his chance. Like we don't forget about that performance in Argentina. Like he was outstanding, and that competition for that 9 jersey, and even unfortunately Noah got injured, but he really shone as well. So I think that 9 position's really exciting for us. And then Fraser McWright. Like I think he is a very, very important cog. You're laughing.
Because I didn't guess he was going to say Fraser. There was no part of me that thought that was going to be mentioned.
Mate, how good is he? How good is he? He's outstanding over the ball. Great. I just think he's a very influential player, and obviously a very good leader in that Aussie team.
Yeah.
Fraser McWright fan club. Tazano's still good, Bryn, don't worry.
Nah, mate. I actually had McWright here. I asked Bernard Foley, and he actually had McWright in that list as well, mate. So you two are aligned very well at seeing good players.
Yeah. What did Bernard make of it as an Aussie?
Yeah, mate. I think he's kind of touched on some really good points. Like, we know that the Joe Schmidt kind of team, they love their tight carries. It's a part of their DNA. I think I touched on it last week, how tight they like to play, and then being able to, I guess, open up their backs and being able to hold on to the ball. I think that holding on to the ball is their biggest thing that he enjoys seeing. They want to throw the ball around. They want to try and ask questions. We saw that definitely on the weekend with the All Blacks, with especially in the edge play, their forwards on the edge, even if it's a Harry Wilson, doesn't matter what number they have on their back, they have the ability to be able to play with the ball in hand. So yeah, he was impressed, I think, with Australia. The only bad thing is not getting the results and being able to get a win against the All Blacks. But I think with what we are seeing with Joe Schmidt, there has been a massive improvement considering what happened with Eddie Jones in the World Cup not too long ago.
What's the next step for them?
Defence.
Yeah.
Like, it's still a big issue.
Yeah.
I don't think they bring enough presence. Like that line speed, physicality. And they show how dangerous they can be from turnover ball. So if they can create, like when you look at dominant tackle stats, like South Africa are miles ahead. Like they had 19 dominant tackles against Argentina on the weekend. It's outrageous. Argentina are the same. They get good high dominant tackle stats. So I think if they could, not be on the back foot all the time defensively, and meet people even halfway. I'm not asking them to just fly out of the line recklessly and try and smash people, but somehow they've got to be able to get off their line and pressure the skill set.
If you, a family member or friend, wants to get into rugby shape, we have the giveaway to suit. Along with All Blacks trainer Dr. Nick Gill's Rugby Ready team, we're trying to get the rugby community, whether you're a player or fan, fit and strong. Each week, one winner will receive 4 weeks of free access to the Rugby Ready Perform membership, with full access to all of Dr. Nick Gill's pre-season, in-season, off-season and specialty programs to help you take your game to the next level. A huge congratulations to this week's winner, Sarah Casey. You've scored 4 weeks of free access to the Rugby Ready Perform membership. And thanks again to everyone who entered. We loved reading your stories. And if you didn't win this time around, don't worry, you're still in the running, so keep those amazing submissions coming, and it could be your name we announce next week. If you want it, it's simple. Just DM Rugby Ready on Instagram with the code ARP and tell them why you'd love to win. And of course, if you miss out, you can get 75% off memberships through ARP by going to the link or using the QR code below. Right, let's go to the EPC, because you know that I want to talk about what's happening here. Canterbury take top spot over Otago. That leaves them in a pretty good spot, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, they've been the best defensive team. Like, their defence is outrageous. Like, they've had a couple of slip-ups against Otago, the Shield, so they've shown that it can be broken down, but for the most part, James Lynch's has got that system humming. They've all bought into it. So I think if there is one side, though, that you probably don't want to play is Counties, because
Say it loud.
Well, and
regularly.
To back up all the chat before, they have the most dominant carries, they have the most dominant tackles, and then they've got X Factor in Nanai Saturu. and Popoliti at 12 is just, man, like if there's one side, if I was Canterbury, this probably wasn't them you wanted to play.
Yeah.
I think if Canterbury get through this weekend, they're going to be very hard to beat at home.
48 points or more for the last 4 games for counties. That's pretty damn effective. And Brynner, a few weeks ago, there was no chance in hell that they looked 5 weeks ago like they had come close to the playoffs. Here they are on a Jared Hayne, style run into the NRL playoffs. Do I dare to dream?
Of course you would, Ross. Dream, mate. I think, when you talk around getting on a hot run, sometimes you just don't want to play teams. And those Canterbury boys will know that. Like, even when you're playing the Crusaders, you're just watching the kind of that 7th, 8th and looking at who's going hot at the time. And I think for the counties boys, they can score points. Very good dominance in terms of being able to go defensively as well. And I think if you're the Canterbury team, going to set piece and being able to go to the contestable game and being able to smother this counties team will probably be probably one of the more important things. So, but counties, geez, they can throw the kitchen sink and they're on a rich train of form. So I definitely don't put it past them going down there, especially the fact that they went to Tasman, get the job done down there, and then heading up to Christchurch. Heading down to Christchurch, to get the job done as well.
Well, I just say this, like they both played on Sunday, they get the afternoon kickoff as well.
Yeah.
Like it feeds right into County's hands. Like 7 o'clock kickoff, Canterbury will win that game.
Yeah. 9
times out of 10. 2 o'clock Sunday, that's going to be a beauty.
Okay, but because I'm a realist, and I don't expect 8 to beat 1 necessarily, if it's not Canterbury or Otago, who is it?
Hawke's Bay.
Yeah?
They've just got such a strong forward pack. Devon Flanders is just playing out of his skin. And then they've just got depth. I'm going, that's recency bias, like obviously of the weekend. Like last week I said Taranaki and Bad Plenty, so I'll be a realist and come clean. I don't really know, but I think, I think it'll be Canterbury Otago.
Yeah.
Final.
You just can't see anyone topping it up.
Nah. Like Otago, they rested players and put 50 on Auckland. It's so impressive.
Poor old Auckland. And the nation mourned. What do you think, Brynner? If it's not Canterbury Otago, who is it?
Bay of Plenty. I thought, look, they've been there or thereabouts, not just this year, but they lost the final last year, and their forward packs, pretty similar in terms of the players that they have had for a while. So I feel like if you are going to win this championship, you've got to have a pretty robust and experienced forward pack. And then with the likes of Eklund, Arkoi, you've got Broughton, Johnston, and even Lasaga as well. There's enough there to be able to put some pressure on these top 2 teams. But look, it's going to be hard to do it against an Otago and a Canterbury team because they've been the 2 best teams of the year. But Bay of Plenty, for the fact that they have been there or thereabouts the last couple of years, they are due, I believe. But can they get it done from where they are? Not too sure, but that would be the dark horse if it's not going to be a Canterbury or an Otago.
Look, I'm all about that. Like, I think they're a quality side, and I know Waddy watches, so I'm not saying they can't win it. But I just get confused when they're so good one week and they just destroy teams, and then Wellington get off to a 21-0 start and they have to fight their way back into games. So I think that Hawke's Bay Taranaki result will be quite critical. That quarterfinal.
Well, the All Blacks are coming back for that quarterfinal, semi-final stage, correct? So. Depending on who comes back and who gets to play for who for those kind of games, bringing back All Black power for some of those teams might actually make it a little bit better for them as well.
Off the bench? But, I mean, by the time you get to the playoffs, you need to trust what you've
I
think
we saw, I think Waikato's had the most All Blacks back. And
that didn't work for them.
No, they started them.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. And then they brought them off the bench and it worked in Tasman. So... it depends how many training days. Like if you're only there for 1 training day, it has to be the bench.
Yeah.
There's too much at stake. It's not a round robin game.
Yeah. And then just let them go with their natural instincts and see how it plays
an
out.
All Black coming off the bench for 20, 30 minutes NPC. Oh,
Eesh.
All day, every day.
Let's go.
They would lick their lips at that.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty to lick your lips at. Great games. Otago, Waikato, Bay of Plenty, Tasman, Hawke's Bay, Taranaki, Canterbury County's big weekend of NPC quarterfinal time. You know we're going to be talking about this next week, especially when Counties beats Canterbury. We're going to be talking about plenty of it. Thank you very much for joining us on the show once again. Thank you very much to Ashley and Martin Medical Hair Centres for looking after us. Please send us an email at aotearoarugbypod@sky.co.nz and we'll look to answer your emails as much as we can. We get quite a few through, so we'll get to them when we can get to them. And thank you to everyone else behind the scenes who helps put the show together each week. Mā te rā.